Corsair's new Vengeance RGB Pro Series DDR4 memory gives you blazing fast speed and dynamic multi-zone RGB lighting with 10 ultra-bright LEDs per module. Customization options are practically endless with the Corsair iCue software package, and they're available with black or white heat spreaders. Find out more about the Corsair Vengeance RGB Pro Series via the sponsor link in the description.
Excellent!
What's up guys, welcome back to Paul's Hardware. This is another video about a massive overpowered computer, and this computer is named Riptide, and if you're watching my channel over the summer, you probably saw me putting it together. It is an insane overpowered system. There's actually two builds in here, a FreeNAS system in the bottom and an Epic Gaming / multi-use editing rig in the top, and I haven't actually really powered it up much for the past 3 or 4 weeks because I've been traveling and other things, but I have a bit of a situation right now. Today's video is mostly going to be about the lighting in this system because whereas I got it all set up and plugged in and I have a crazy amount of Corsair LL series fans as well as some other RGB elements throughout, when I powered this on yesterday, I realized a bit of a problem, which is that we got some action going on with this reservoir over here on the right, but the one on the left, which is the CPU loop, there's nothing really going on with that one. So unfortunately, it seems like one of my pumps has died. Very sad about that. It happened quickly, so I guess that's good. I already talked to Alphacool about it, and they're sending me over a replacement. For the time being, though, I can't really run this system because the CPU is just overheating. It was getting too warm to the point where it couldn't even recognize the memory properly. But I think I might have a temporary solution to get us through today's video, and that is thanks to all of the quick disconnects I have. This is actually a pretty flexible system considering that it is custom water cooled. So first off, let me shut it off. So right now I have two separate loops. This one is cooling the CPU and going up to the top radiator, and then this one on the right is cooling both GPUs and going to the two front radiators. But look what I can do with my quick disconnects. I'm gonna pop that out. I'm gonna pop this out. I'm gonna connect that right there. I'm gonna connect this right here. So obviously not as pretty now, but I've gone from two distinct separate loops running in parallel to both loops running in series, since we're gonna go through the GPUs over here and then out back into this pump and then up to the CPU and then out of there and back into this one. And it's just gonna cycle through there even though the pump's not running. So I do have some built-in redundancy with this system, which is nice. Although I'd much rather have both pumps up and running. This will work for now. So guys, if it wasn't clear from the get-go, there's a lot of Corsair equipment in this build and a lot of it is RGB related. And Corsair has software called iCue. This is somewhat recent. Prior to this, they've had a couple different softwares, Corsair Link that could monitor your Corsair equipment that you have installed, and then a separate software for RGB lighting. They have now combined it all together, and here is a quick look at the user interface. That brings us here, and this is the default home page where you can get a look at the hardware you have connected. Unfortunately, all of my hardware was recognized. I've gone full Corsair by also connecting up a K70 RGB keyboard, M65 Pro RGB mouse. Of course, I have the AX1600i power supply installed, and since I connected the USB from that to the motherboard, that's being recognized. I got my Vengeance RGB memory kits, the Obsidian 1000D case, which actually has a built-in Commander Pro, which registers it as the 1000D, so it can determine that that is distinct from add-on Commander Pros. And then I have an add-on Commander Pro and an add-on Lighting Node Pro. Now my focus today is going to be on lighting, but I'm quickly going to work kind of backwards here and jump over to the settings tab, because here you can determine all of your different hardware that's connected. And here's where you would adjust specific stuff like on your power supply, for example. And this is stuff that Link was formerly able to do. Also more specific settings like keyboard and mouse, and it'll also give you updates or access to firmware updates here. Also down on the bottom you can access some basic functions of the software itself, like changing from Celsius to Fahrenheit for the display. But beyond that, back over on the home page, we can see on the upper left side we can create profiles. You create new profiles by just clicking the plus. It will add one on there. You can name the profile yourself, and then you can also use little icons to delete the profile if you want to. You can also copy profiles, and you can import and export them as well. I have not messed around with importing and exporting, but I imagine if somebody has a very similar setup to you and they've done a bunch of cool lighting configurations with it, then you can download that and save yourself some work. And one last thing before we get into the lighting is the dashboard over here, and you can add and remove modules to this, and it just gives you sort of a visual look at the stuff that's connected. So I can see all my memory here and the speeds and timings and the current temperatures. I can see some specs for my case and the case fans, as well as case fan RPMs and everything for the Commander Pro, and basic stats for the power supply. Now, if you're looking at the system right now, you might notice that it's pretty much all white. And in fact, my keyboard here is all white and the mouse is all white on the lighting too. And that is because I used this very easy to use instant lighting feature. I thought this was a pretty cool feature when I first showed it at CES, and yes, it is also compatible with the memory, although that does take another second or two. Just a really simple way to choose a single color, and they have a nice assortment of them here, although they don't always appear exactly how they should. Like, for instance, that's supposed to be kind of orange. It's a little bit more yellow. But another cool feature here is if you go and choose the black option, everything turns off. So if you want to watch a movie or something, I have really quick access to doing that. And then you can also choose the X here, and that will turn off instant lighting, so you can go over and use your profiles, which are going to be a little bit more advanced. So once you've chosen a profile, and I've made one here called blue and white because that's really been my goal, is to set up all the lights here to be mostly blue and white so it matches with my custom cables by Wasmods. And here, once you've chosen a device like the RGB memory, you can go and choose lighting effects, and that will allow you to adjust the lighting effects. Now, over here on the left side are layers. And if you've ever used Photoshop, for example, this is a great way to think about it. The layer on top is the one that will be visible, and then layers beneath that will shine through if there's no other layer on top of that that has a light to supersede it. So for this setup, I made two layers. With the lower layer, I chose dims 1, 3, 6, and 8. With the upper layer, I chose dims 2, 4, 5, and 6, and that gave me a nice coordination. And by the way, if you deselect or reselect the dims here, you can sort of see which one you're selecting at any given time. Like that's 7, that's 5, that's 2, and that's 4. So if you want it to be somewhat symmetrical when you're looking at it from the front, and you have 8 dims. Let's do another one and start from scratch here so you guys can get a better look. I've added a lighting effect which applied to all of the RAM sticks, and next I'm going to, let's switch to static color just so it's a little easier to keep track of, and let's make all of these like a nice light blue color, and that should reflect there. Yes, not too bad. From here again, I can deselect certain RAM sticks that I do not want to include with my additional color, so now I have one layer up here that has just dims 1, 3, 6, and 8 to be that blue color, and that's just static. Now if I wanted to, I could add another lighting effect here. Now it's on top, it's up above, so it has overwritten the static color. If I were to drag that down and put it underneath, we could see the rainbow shining through underneath here, whereas that static blue color is still on top. So this shows you how you can kind of overlap and layer different effects to make it look how you want to. So here I switched that second layer to color pulse, and I've chosen just red and white. So now we should have static blue, and then we should have pulsing for the other 4 dims between red and white. So there's the blue with the red, and now the red's gonna shift to white. Well, it pulses, so it turns off and then comes back on as white, just like that. Beautiful, beautiful. All right, so shift just transitions between the colors without dimming out first. So now we have blue with red and white shifting in between. Feeling very patriotic today. Go America. Everyone register to vote. Now, Vengeance Memory lets us individually address each dim, but not each LED. Again, that's just the type of memory that I have, and it's because I wanted the 128 gig kit. Corsair's newer memory isn't available in that yet, or at least it wasn't when I built this system. But what if you're selecting a device that has multiple lights, multiple addressable LEDs, or multiple devices, each with addressable LEDs? And for that, I have gone and selected our actual Obsidian D case. And you'll notice on the left, you have lighting setup as well as chassis lighting. So setup here is where you can actually tell it for which channels that are available, what is actually connected to it. The simplest device to show you this was probably going to be the Lighting Node Pro, which just has a couple LED channels that come out of it. If we go to lighting setup here, we can see the 2 channels, and we can tell it what device is actually connected. This is telling it how many LEDs it will need to address when it comes to addressable LED strips, and it can't automatically detect that. You have to tell it what's there. So for example here with lighting channel 2, this is actually where my LED strips at the bottom of the case are connected. So I have different options to choose from here. If I tell it it's got an RGB light strip connected to it, and I tell it one strip is connected, then down there at the bottom of my case where I have 2 light strips connected, one will light up. But even though the other one is plugged in, it's not lighting up. So what happens when I tell it 2 are connected? So here we go, just jumping from 1 strip to 2 strips. And now the second strip lights up because we have told the program how much power to use. So using that method, I've gone through each device just to make sure everything is connected, and I found that pretty much everything is there, except I did make one mistake. If I go over to the Lighting Node Pro here, which again has 2 LED channels connected to it, if I change that to none, that's lighting channel 1, you might notice that my front Corsair logo, and actually at the top, the I/O RGBs go out. If I tell it it's an RGB strip and 3 strips are connected, then they start working again. That's not exactly how it should work because there is an Obsidian connection point here, and that is where those front panel things should be connected to. So I think just so everything is going to be connected right to where it should go, and what I'm selecting is actually representing the right color, I'm going to do a quick rewire and see if I can plug that Lighting Node Pro back into light strips or fans and plug the Obsidian controller back into the Obsidian LEDs. So I did manage to fix the wiring up mostly, at least the front panels are now connecting properly so that I can address them if I choose the Obsidian over here. I actually have the chassis lighting, and then I have the individual lighting channel that I've set up. And right now I've overlaid 2 effects so you can kind of get an idea of putting something on top of another thing. I chose static color, and I went to every single device and I set it to be that static color of pink. And then I used Lighting Link, which is a universal lighting effect that can apply to all addressable LEDs in the system. Bear in mind, addressable only. So Lighting Link actually is not an effect that I can put over our memory right now, but if you switch to that addressable LED memory, it will be able to do that. But more to the point, with the static color on the bottom, and I just made that pink, and you can actually individually choose which LEDs you want to apply an effect to, for an example, like there. That's just pink now, or versus selecting all of the LEDs in that fan, or all of the LEDs in both of these fans, or like just these 4 LEDs from those 2 fans. It's actually really flexible when it comes to the addressable LEDs, but I've just chosen them all, and then I've used that Lighting Link, which again is a universal effects. It becomes available as a 3rd option here. Light Link effects will apply to all addressable LEDs that are connected to iCue software, and now you can see that visor effect, which is kind of like the kit effect from Knight Rider, and it just goes over all of the LEDs, and since everything is more or less in order, it will actually cycle through, so it's kind of cool to watch it come across the LED strip on the bottom to get up to the front LED fans. There's a couple in the top, I think, fans that are not quite in the exact right order, but I will probably go back and fix that at a future time. So just to do one more quick lighting demo, I set up a blue and white color scheme, and I think my favorite thing that this software is able to do is the overlapping of 2 effects on top of each other. So I've been going with the method of choosing a static background color. White is pretty universal and matches with most other colors. And then choosing an effect to overlay on top, such as Arc. Arc's one of the fun ones that I found here. Heartbeat, Pong. These are gonna work differently depending on what you have set up, and also some of these effects are applicable to the Light Loop series fans because they have 16 individual addressable LEDs, whereas some of the effects are not. So you actually find with certain devices, like if I go over here to the Obsidian 1000D, here's all of my LEDs available on that. I actually don't have the Arc choice as an option down here, simply because these LEDs are a little bit more limited than the Light Loop series fans are. But by using a combination of laying visor over the top and laying that Arc effect over the top, I came out with what you see in front of you right now, which I think looks pretty cool. Of course, there's tons of tweaking and stuff that could still be done with it, but that's the whole point, is that it's very flexible, so you can set the lighting up however you want it to look and hopefully make it look pretty and match with your overall color scheme. That said, if you've been looking close up at the actual build, you might notice that not all my LEDs are lining up. I've got the memory, I've got all the fans, I've got the light strip at the bottom, I've got the LEDs on the case itself. What I do not have are the LEDs on the motherboard that strip going down the right side of the ROG Zenith Extreme from ASUS, and then there's an accent LED on the top left there too. Unfortunately, the LED control software is still a little bit disjointed depending on what hardware you're using and what software you're using, so I cannot control the LEDs on the motherboard with the Corsair iCue software. So I'm going to install ASUS Aura Sync right now, which has its own pluses and minuses when it comes to compatibility and bugginess and stuff, and I'm going to cross my fingers that I don't run into any of those issues, because I know both of the softwares are going to be trying to control the RGB lighting on the memory, for example. That said, let's download and install Aura and see if I can get all the LEDs in the system to line up. Aura's installed, did a quick restart, and where did my profiles go? Oh, here we go. Here's my blue and white. It's thinking about doing what I want it to do. No, it's not. ASUS took it over. Oh, those jerks. All right, so first thing I've discovered here is that the ASUS Aura Sync software has apparently taken over control of my RGB dims. Very unfortunate, ASUS, because I had a cool effect going on there, but let's see what you have available for me. So first off, let's see if I can just disconnect the DRAM. Save the changes. DRAM is disconnected. I can turn the lights on or off. So I currently do not know how to like detach the memory from the ASUS Aura software and let the Corsair iCue software control it, maybe installing one then the other or something like that. I'm happy right now that I'm not getting any direct conflicts that's causing the system to lock up or colors not to actually take effect. But I think to give myself something functional to work with for now, I'm gonna go to Rainbow Gradient. This has been my go-to effect for RGB lighting scenarios because it allows you to choose a range of colors here, so you don't necessarily get the rainbow vomit that a lot of people have kind of gotten over. But I'm gonna just choose from sort of a lighter blue to a darker blue. I'll hit apply there, and then that should affect my memory sticks as well as those RGB accents on the motherboard and get everything matching up pretty nicely with the color scheme that I chose with iCue. But guys, that is pretty much going to be all for this video. I really just wanted to get this system back up and running since it's been a while since I messed around with it. And yes, I do have further coverage planned on this. Of course, I'm going to need to swap out that pump. And my goal has really been to actually use this system from day one. I want to use this system. I need to get it integrated into my computer room back there. So another follow-up is going to be building just a platform, a stand, a computer off floor option that will hold this system and integrate it into my computer room back there. And then of course, I've got the swap of the pump and I'm gonna be upgrading the water block here from this CPU only dedicated Alphacool block to a full mono block because EK makes a mono block for the X399 ASUS Zenith motherboard. So that's coming in the future too. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video though and learned a little bit more about the complexities of setting up not just the system, but getting all the lighting wired in and then actually using the software to set up the lighting to look something akin to what you maybe had in mind when you were originally building the system. I like what I've got for now. Of course, I'm going to set up some more profiles for this too, I think, in the future. But guys, definitely hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video. Hit the subscribe button too if you want to be notified. Hit the little bell notification icon too. That's helpful too. You can get a notification once I post the follow-up videos on this system. It's good to get back to it since I've been covering the RTX series for a very long time. Thanks again for watching though, guys, and we'll see you next time.